G'day, it's Steve here and welcome to Fortress Learning. In this bite-sized tutorial, I'm going to discuss the principles of assessment and the rules of evidence and how they play a role in ensuring quality assessment in the vocational education and training sector. A part of the standards for registered training organisations requires RTOs to ensure that the principles of assessment and the rules of evidence are followed when designing and conducting assessment. This ensures that high-quality assessment processes are planned and implemented. Let's start by taking a look at the 4 principles of assessment which are used to inform the design of assessment tools and instruments. The first principle is fairness, which aims to ensure that individual learners' needs are considered in the assessment process. This includes ensuring that the learners have been clearly informed about the assessment processes and requirements. Fairness also requires provisions for reasonable adjustment to be applied where necessary to accommodate learners' needs and preferences. In addition to this, learners should be informed about procedures for disputing assessment decisions if they feel their results are incorrect. The second principle of assessment is flexibility. Now, this is to ensure that the learner's individual needs, preferences, and situations are considered in the assessment process. Now, this may involve offering different assessment methods that will each achieve the same outcome, like oral questioning instead of written questions to assess a candidate's knowledge. The assessment process should also allow learners to demonstrate their skills and knowledge regardless of where they were learned. The assessment process must also allow for the use of appropriate assessment methods that reflect the outcomes of the unit of competency and the context in which the skills and knowledge will be applied by the assessment candidate. For example, if a candidate is undertaking training to learn the WHS requirements for working in a kitchen, then the assessment must reflect the context of the kitchen and not the WHS requirements of some other unrelated workplace like a building site. The next principle of assessment is validity. This requires the RTO to ensure that the assessment tools are actually assessing what they're supposed to be assessing and ensuring that appropriate methods are being used to make assessment judgments based on the candidate's performance. This means that skills must be assessed via some form of practical activity and knowledge must be assessed through some form of questioning. For example, if a candidate was being assessed on their ability to change a car tyre, valid assessment would require the candidate to physically demonstrate the skill and not simply be asked questions about how they would do it. The final principle of assessment is reliability. This means that the assessment must be designed in a way that ensures consistent interpretation of the assessment requirements and expectations, regardless of who is administering the assessment, regardless of who is undertaking the assessment, and regardless of who is making the assessment decisions. Everyone should be on the same page. Now let's take a look at the rules of evidence. These 4 rules are all about ensuring that the evidence that has been requested by the assessor and presented by the candidate actually meets the evidence requirements outlined in the relevant unit of competency. The first rule of evidence is validity. This requires the assessor to be certain that the candidate has presented evidence that appropriately demonstrates the specific skills and knowledge that have been identified in the relevant units of competency and assessment requirements. For example, if the unit of competency required the learner to demonstrate their ability to bake a cake, but instead they baked biscuits, this assessment evidence would not be valid. The next rule of evidence is sufficiency. This rule is about ensuring that the candidate has provided enough evidence for an assessment decision to be made. This includes the quality of the evidence and the quantity of the evidence that's been presented by the candidate. For example, if the unit of competency requires the candidate to demonstrate their skills by baking a cake 3 times, but they only demonstrated these skills twice, then there would be insufficient evidence to make an assessment decision. The rule of authenticity requires the assessor to be absolutely sure that the evidence presented by the candidate for assessment has actually been prepared by them. They need to be sure that there was no collusion from a third party in the preparation of the evidence and that it is not the work of someone else that the candidate has presented as their own. The fourth rule of evidence is currency. This rule requires the assessor to be sure that the assessment evidence demonstrates that the candidate currently has the skills and knowledge that are outlined in the relevant units of competency. This requires the assessment evidence to be from the present or very recent past and not something that was completed years ago, where the skills and knowledge may not necessarily reflect current industry trends and requirements. For example, a person who may have been a builder many years ago presents evidence of structures that they've built. However, this evidence does not demonstrate that they were constructed according to current building codes and legislation. Therefore, this candidate could not necessarily be considered competent at this present time. Thanks for watching, and if a career as a trainer in vocational education is something you're interested in, contact Fortress Learning to see just how you can get started.